Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another impromptu stream update on the saga, the continuing adventure into the wonderful world of Dungeons and Dragons. I tell you, they just can't help themselves, seemingly. Just can't help themselves. Okay, so last night, I guess yesterday, on a streaming show from a channel on YouTube called Three Black Halflings, an interview was conducted with a name that should be familiar to us by now in the Dungeons and Dragons OGL lore, and that is Kyle Brink. His official title, let me double check and make sure I have his official title on here. See, Kyle Brink. Screw up my audio, isn't it? I'll turn that off. Every time I turn on my Firefox, because I have to use Chrome to do these broadcasts, if I turn Firefox on, all of a sudden I'm told my sound goes all goofy. Anyway, Kyle Brink is a muckety-muck for D&D. I think he's like the lead developer or something, or product manager. Either way, he's been the spokesman. Let's put this way. He's been the spokesperson for D&D, elsewise Wizards of the Coast, on the whole open gaming license situation since it really broke. And now Kyle Brink has given an interview to Three Black Halflings. And in the course of this interview, he said some very interesting things. Now, I have found the timestamp of where the conversation kind of begins on this subject. I have not listened to it in its totality yet. This will be the first time I've listened to all of it. And so we'll find out together what he has to say specifically, if I'm reading the context correctly, about how he feels regarding white men playing Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, amongst other things. Apparently, there's a part here. I found a part where they start talking about hiring at Wizards of the Coast /D&D and diversity. So we're going to find out together. In the meantime, Chicago Mike, One Ton Hammer, and Robert Pincus, hello. Also, it is possible you may be hearing anomalous noises in the background. I don't know how sensitive my microphone is. Currently, there is repairs being undertaken in regards to that water leak from the apartment above me that I spoke of on Twitter the other day. So if you hear those things in the background, that's what's going on. I've tried to, let me close the door here real quick. I don't know if that'll actually do anything, but hey, just on the off chance. So let's get right into it without further ado. For anybody's reference, the link to the original interview is in the description. I am starting at timestamp 46 minutes and 57 seconds. But you, of course, are free to listen to the whole interview in totality if you wish. But yeah, so now we're getting on to a question from one of the interviewers, Jeremy Cobb, about hiring at the company. And let's see what Kyle has to say about it going forward.
In terms of hiring diversity, this actually speaks to one thing that Orion Black said in their statements, which is that they believed that they were essentially a diversity hire, which, look, we're all in favor of diversity, but ultimately, I think what makes the difference in a company like this is if you have minority people in positions of power.
Specifically because they're minorities? Oh, yes. Even when explaining it and being all forthright about it, you can't run away from, I'm a diversity hire. Well, you have to have people in power because of what they look like. That's how does that avoid the imposter syndrome /tokenism aspect that you just alluded to? I don't know. But anyway.
And while I'm sure that there have been numerous hirings of people from a variety of different minorities, at least in the case of racial minorities, I've met a number of people who, including yourself, who are fairly high up in D&D, and I think every single one of them has been white. And also, I think all of them have been cis men. Not to say that everybody there is a cis man, but it seems to be consistently that we have white cis men still at the top of these groups. Can you identify any specific positions of like significant power? Because you got. I mean, even on the D&D team, you've still got Jeremy Crawford. You still got Mike Merles and so forth. What can you identify any specific positions that have like higher ranking positions that have been filled by people of, say, racially diverse backgrounds?
Listen to this. Where are the priorities? Oh, there are too many white people. Okay, well, how do you, again, I asked this question so many times on so many other videos, I feel like I'm doing a Sunday stream all of a sudden. Well, how do you solve for that problem without employing racial discrimination? Right? How do you ensure that that problem is solved unless you start hiring people on the basis of their skin color first and foremost? Anyway, let's hear what Kyle's answer to this question is.
I think if you look at the credits of our books, you'll see some lead designers there who are not cis men. You will also see a lot of primary authors on sources. These are folks who are coming up through the ranks and proving themselves. And
oh, proving themselves? Oh, you mean merit is what matters here? Oh, okay. All right. Well,
earning their respect, not because of who they are, but because of how they are as professionals.
Not because of who they are, because how they are as professionals. That's not the question, Kyle. Kyle, you don't have enough of the appropriate colors amongst your people. Why don't you have the appropriate colors, Kyle? We're not talking about merit here. No mention was made of talent, skill, education, or experience, Kyle. Kyle, it's about colors, Kyle.
Which is the best kind of respect, right? You don't want to be respected because you're the diversity hire. You want to be respected because you're awesome at your job.
Well, you're not answering the question, Kyle. No, Kyle, not merit. We're not talking about merit, Kyle. He asked you what positions. What positions? Okay, so developers. Okay.
And that's happening more and more. This, look, guys like me, we're leaving the workforce.
Guys like you are leaving the workforce.
To be blunt, and we're also not. This is not the face of the hobby anymore.
What?
I'm not the majority of this hobby anymore, and so it's important to me that my team of creators look like my players and have the lived experience that my players do.
Oh my God.
And I think there's been mistakes made in years past where people assumed that D&D players were all, white dudes in a basement, which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years and gets more and more false every day. And so
if it was always false, Kyle, then why do you feel you need to fix it by populating your workforce with people who quote unquote look like your player base? If it was never true, if it was just a myth, then why is anything broken that needs fixing, Kyle?
In my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough for this hobby. And we owe you good games. We owe you good products.
Guys like me can't leave soon enough from the hobby. Guys like, you know what, Kyle? You're right. You're right. I 100% agree with you. Guys like you, guys like Kyle Brink can't leave soon enough.
And so we need to make sure that everybody working on it is real good at it. And that means not just hiring, but also developing, right? When we bring people in who are good, we need to empower them, give them more room to run.
Okay, so Kyle, at what point in your hiring process do you employ a racial filter? Right? I mean, if people who are like you, who look like you, are not desirable in the hobby, in the business, and so on, at what point in your hiring funnel do you apply a racial filter? That's what I'd like to know, since this is the sentiment you're pushing forward. So if somebody comes to work at your company and they look like you, is that a mark in their disfavor for employment? I'd love to know.
Them guidance on what we learned when we were creating stuff so that they can create great stuff too. And then, I always hire people smarter than me so that I can get out of their way. That's my approach. And so as long as we stay on this trajectory, yeah, this is the face of D&D will literally change.
So you're the face of D&D. So a hobby that, as you said yourself, has always been one open to people of all stripes. Well, now the face, the PR face, the stereotypical face of the hobby will change, even though the hobby itself has been a welcoming and relatively diverse gathering since its inception. Who are you trying to impress, Kyle? Who are you trying to appease? If you know the truth behind the stereotype, then why do you feel the need to manufacture an aesthetic to cure other people's assumptions about the hobby?
Okay. I see we're running relatively low on time, so I got two big questions that I wanted to get to. The first is that many people suspect that 1D&D is going to be strongly, it's going to be, at least with the release of 1D&D, there's going to be a very strong focus on digital platforms like VTTs that
Okay, I think that is the end of the relevant portion of the discussion that I wanted to look at and have heard about so far on Twitter, and that's Kyle Brink, spokesperson at the very least for D&D or 1D&D or whatever's going on, stating his philosophy about the kinds of people he think belong in the hobby. Just think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. The kinds of people he thinks belong in the hobby, the face of the hobby. Not that it should be a hobby open to everybody, but that there's a specific look that he thinks belongs in the hobby that people like him can't leave fast enough. What is that? Jesus. Okay, Kyle. Well, you've done it again. I don't know what to tell you, but between your press releases on the OGL and your interesting word choice in those statements previously on the previous streams I've done on these subjects, this just takes the cake. This just takes the cake. I am glad that people like you, Kyle Brink, aren't leaving fast enough or can't leave fast enough because, I think you might be part of the problem. I think you might be part of the problem. And I would love to know in your hiring, promotion decisions where you apply that racial and gender, apparently, filter. Where do you apply those things? How many potential employees have been denied opportunities on the basis of their race or their gender, Kyle? Right. And then likewise, how many employees have been given opportunities not because necessarily of their merits, but because of their race and or their gender? Kyle, where does this take place in your process? I would love to know. Take a couple seconds here for you guys. Real quick, few more hellos. Shady Grin, Mike R. This is Kyle. Mike Savage, Tyrannus Alexandrius Tremirlich. Hello, hello. Simon Willikins. Hello. Let's see, Dax Orion or Brigadier Dax of Muffinfort or something. We'll never get back to what we had in the past with one of our favorite games, will we? So disappointing. Today, I regretfully request to be Dax, the Sultan of Sadness. Oh, shush, you're Brigadier Dax of Muffinfort. No, here's the thing. As hilarious and eye-rolling as Kyle Brink's testimony, so to speak, here is, he doesn't run the game. He is not the GM. He is not the DM of Dungeons & Dragons. Anybody who wants to play D&D, find a digital copy or a physical one if you can, or a reprint or something of 3.5 and run the game you want to run. You can avoid all this nonsense, all this garbage, everything that they've done since fourth edition and onward, and just run the game you want to run and have fun with the people you want to have fun with. You don't have to listen to this guy. He's got nothing to do with it. He does not control your imagination. If I can put any kind of positive spin on this, it's just hilarious watching this guy navigate the PR world in response to constant self-inflicted errors by both Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, and D&D. And after all of that, after the crucible that they've gone through in the last couple of months over the open gaming license, now Kyle Brink, spokesperson, whatever he is himself, comes onto a live stream and just dunks. Hey, customers. Hey, people that have been paying my salary effectively through your purchases of our products over the years. Hey, by the way, if you look a particular way, we don't want you. It's even better if you leave. I think so. Yeah. Unfortunately for Kyle, he doesn't control the D&D universe. In fact, I'd wager to say they never have. D&D gives you the rules. They give you some settings. They give you some names of stuff. Ultimately, though, any game that is run, D&D doesn't control that. And so, Kyle, yeah, good job. Good. You done once again nothing nothing to improve the profile of the company you work for or the product that you help produce. Nothing at all. It's hilarious. I love it. This is Kyle. I need to figure out how to make a D&D type game like what Cyberpunk has. Have you ever considered Shadowrun? I mean, it kind of is Cyberpunk D&D, more or less. You should go check out Rem Alternus on YouTube and Twitch. They do a lot of Shadowrun stuff, and I've interviewed, I forget what her title is now. I don't know if she's like CEO, but she was kind of in charge of stuff. But anyway, go check out Shadowrun. Let's see, Dax again. Oh, I know. So when are we doing one of these Discord A&D second edition with house rules? I've been thinking about trying to do a tabletop game online for a while now, but I won't do D&D. I don't hate D&D. I'm just not a D&D guy. High fantasy setting, I'm still kind of iffy. One or two here or there, maybe. No. Mike Savage, 3.5 and earlier still valid sources. The D&Ders I know all play 3 or 2 mostly. Yeah, like I say, 3.5 was kind of like, as far as all the D&D aficionados that I know have said, 3.5 was like the last good system. But anything earlier than that is also classic as well. But anything after 3.5, I effectively avoid like the plague. Last time I played D&D was 5th edition, but it was a lot of homebrew stuff. I mean, the 5th edition was just used as more or less as just the scaffolding, let's say, of the games I played. It wasn't didn't go too deep on it. It was essentially just classic D&D, more or less, or maybe 3.5 to 4. Because the people that were playing the game and running the game were old school guys, so they didn't need 5th ed so much to know how to run the game, just as a reference point. Let's see, Chicago Mike, last role-playing game I was involved is the 7 Princes of Amber. I'm not familiar with that one, but then there are a lot of role-playing games out there that are good that I've never heard of before. Tyrannus, Scarblight, you run a masquerade game. My Truha is ready and waiting. Oh, God, yeah. Oh, man. Temporis. Oh, God, that is such a gross power. I sort of got True Bruja should probably always be NPC characters, unless you're just going to like let the reins out and let anybody play anything. Like, oh, I'm going to have my coterie of a True Bruja and a Harbinger of Skulls. And, how about, a Voivode of the Zamitzi or something. Might as well. Yeah, they're just friends. They've known each other a long time. It's fine. Oh, yeah, and the true Cappadocian over here. Yeah, not the Harbinger of Skull, mind you, but an actual Cappadocian. Yeah, that's fine. I actually played in a game like that once, a long time ago in college. The guy running it just said, pick whatever vampire character you want to play as, it'll be fine. And I think I said, I'll play Ventru. I'll play Ventru himself. Like, okay. So I had Fortitude 12, and, it was just ridiculous. All over the place. Ridiculous. Yeah. So anyway, guys, that was it. There wasn't a whole lot to say here. I heard that Kyle Brink gave an interview and he made some long drawn out comment about his opinion of white cis men and their place both in the company and in the hobby itself. And there you go. Again, link to the full interview and discussion is in the link, in the description below. The timestamp for that particular portion is at 46 minutes and 57 seconds on the program. But I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff in there that might be interesting to D&D aficionados or other people interested in the open gaming license controversy and so on. I know they covered a little bit of that in there, but I just wanted to focus on this one section because that was the most interesting to me and relevant given my pedigree of previous live streams. But with that, everybody, I'm going to call it there because I'm probably going to have a repairman down here in the next few minutes to deal with the stuff on my end. Just as a programming note, Thursday this week at regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, another edition of TED Excellence in Superpowers Month. This week, it'll be ADHD is my superpower. Last week, it was emotions. This week, it's ADHD. Oh, boy. And as a sneak preview, as of this recording, as this broadcast, March 11th, Saturday, March 11th, currently tentatively scheduled for 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern, will be Living on Borrowed Crime, Episode 3. Oh, boy. Guests to be announced. I want to get closer to the date and make sure that everybody's firmed up to arrive before I start naming off names. But so far, I have at least 2 guests lined up, hopefully a third. I will let you guys know more in the future as we get closer to that date. So yeah, mark your calendars, March 11th. I'll be posting a link once I have everybody lined up and scheduled. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me for this brief little stream update on the Wizards of the Coast saga. A new chapter. And we enter with diversity hiring and who belongs in the hobby. Oh boy, what's going to happen next? God only knows. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. I hope you all have a good rest of your, what day is it? Tuesday. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.